For this video, we're going to work on the second strategy on how to add mixed numbers. Now, I've used the same example problems as before so that we already know what the answer is if you've watched the previous video. I'm just going to show you a different way to get to the answers that we came up with last time. You might think this way is easier, you might think this way is harder. My goal is to give you options or tools for your mathematical toolbox so that when you're trying to solve a problem, you're not stuck with just one solution or one way to do this. So, without further ado, let's get started on adding 2 3/7 plus 4 2/7 using the second strategy. Now I call this strategy the second strategy, but another way to think of it is the improper fraction strategy. As we learned in a previous video, any mixed number can be converted into an improper fraction. And we do that by multiplying the denominator with the whole number and then adding in the numerator. If you want some practice with that, feel free to check out my video on that. So if I convert 2 3/7 into an improper fraction, 2 times 7 is 14, 14 plus 3 is 17, so our numerator becomes 17 and we keep 7 as the denominator. Now we do the exact same process to 4 2/7. 4 times 7 is 28, plus 2 is 30, and just like before, we keep the 7 as the denominator. Now, we add them together like we normally would because we have two fractions with equivalent or common denominators. So 17 plus 30 is 47, and we keep our denominator of 7. What you may be noticing right away is we have an improper fraction. But that's okay. When we're using improper fractions, we want this. So now that we have an improper fraction, we can convert 47/7 into a mixed number by dividing 47 by 7. So we start off with our dividing. 7 can't go into 4, but it can go into 47 6 times. 7 times 6 is 42. We subtract and we get 5. So we would get 6 remainder 5 as our quotient, but remember, just like we talked about in the last video, we don't want remainders when we're dealing with fractions or mixed numbers. We want to turn all of this into a mixed number. So we get 6 from our whole number, from our quotient, that's our whole number. We get the denominator 7 because that is our divisor, and it was our denominator from before. Denominators have a habit of not wanting to change if they don't have to. And then finally, our numerator is 5. That's what was left over. That's our remainder. So 2 3/7 plus 4 2/7 ends up being 6 5/7. Change each part into an improper fraction. Since we have common denominators, we can add the numerators. And then once we get our improper fraction in the end, use division by dividing the numerator by the denominator to get our quotient, which can then be turned into a mixed number. Seems like a lot, but as you get used to it, it's becomes second nature pretty much. Now let's try our second problem. Here's our second problem again. So now we're dealing with 3 2/5 plus 5 4/6. We're going to change each part into an improper fraction just like before. So 5 times 3 gets me 15, plus 2 gets me 17, so 3 2/5 becomes 17/5. 5 times 6 is 30, plus 4 is 34, so this becomes 34/6. Now here's where you might not like this problem. We have our improper fractions, but we don't have a common denominator. So we're going to have to find that common denominator just like last time. Common denominator is still going to be 30 for both pieces. And just like before, we want to multiply the numerator and the denominators by the same factor that gets us those common denominators. So if I multiply 5 by 6 to get 30, I have to multiply 17 by 6, which gets us 102. Same thing on the other side. If I'm multiplying 6 by 5 to get 30, I have to multiply 34 by 5, which gets us 170. Now that we have both of those pieces together, we add them up, since we have our common denominator, and we end up with 272 30ths. This is a big, ugly number. We got a 272 as the numerator. We have a double digit as the denominator. It's going to be tough, but that's okay. Divide 272 by 30. Well, 30 can't go into 2. 30 can't go into 27. So we have to go into 272. Now, I know 3 times 9 is 27, so 30 times 9 is 270. Subtract, we have a 2, there's nothing for us to bring down, so we end up with the improper fraction, with the mixed number, 9 and 2 30ths. 9 because of the number up here, 2 from what's left over, so this could be written as 9 remainder 2 up top. The remainder is our numerator, and our divisor is still our denominator. So there you have it. We can always resort to changing mixed numbers into improper fractions to add them together. Sometimes it works out nicer. In this case, it was a little bit tougher than the original problem, so it's up to you to choose which method works best for you. But as I said, it's great to have multiple ways to do something. That way, if you're not good at one method, you have another option that you can practice. Enjoy!